On the way home for Tet, we unfortunately encountered a fierce snowstorm and got stuck on the highway. Luckily, I had prepared carefully in advance. The back seat and trunk were full of food and down jackets. In theory, if we just waited patiently, we could have survived until the road was clear. However, in the middle of the road, her husband's mistress appeared begging for a ride. The car was already full, there was no more room. I resolutely refused. My husband went crazy and screamed at me. I firmly argued and refused, but he was heartbroken at the sight of his mistress shivering from the cold. Without saying a word, he kicked me out of the car so she could get in. I was left in the middle of the snow and ice, freezing to death on the highway, while my husband and she were wearing the down jackets that I spent a fortune to buy, eating the food I had travelled all over to prepare, sitting in the insulated car that I had to spend money to modify, chatting and laughing leisurely on the way home to celebrate Tet. I opened my eyes again and went back to the day I received the news that there would be an extreme snowstorm on the way back home. Chin Shin Yu, were you tricked into kicking your head? Using my money to buy this junk, are you only happy when you destroy this house? Have you never spent money in your life? Zhou Xiaojie looked at the pile of self-cooked corn and mineral water boxes on the floor and immediately angrily scolded me. That scolding was like a strong blow that woke me up. I came back to life seeing that I didn't respond. He walked over and snatched a large sack and pulled out a down jacket. Are you crazy? Who are you buying so many down jackets for? Looking at your fat body, throwing it into Antarctica would be enough to burn off the fat. Why do you need a down jacket? This jacket is priced at 3999 yuan. Do you think I make money so easily? I closed my eyes, and the painful scenes from my previous life were still imprinted in my mind. In my previous life, I knew that there would be a huge snowstorm on the way back to my hometown, with temperatures dropping to 50 degrees Celsius during Tet. Traffic jams on the highway were a common occurrence. The whole family, from the elderly to the young, were looking forward to being together, so I gritted my teeth and spent money to buy everything I needed just to get through that snowstorm. I once asked Zhou Xiaojie, who ran a car repair shop, to cover the car's body with a layer of new technology insulation material to prevent the cold from outside from penetrating, but he just ignored my words and scolded me for being crazy and only knowing how to be brainwashed by sales channels. And insulation material. Do you know how expensive it is? It's almost Tet. I don't want to curse you directly, but if you make a fuss in front of me again, I'll slap you a few times to wake you up. Seeing that I couldn't convince him, I had to secretly find another garage and spend a lot of money to have them wrap the car with insulation material. As expected, on the way back to our hometown, we encountered a terrible snowstorm. We were all stuck on the road, unable to move forward or backward overnight. The temperature dropped to minus 50 degrees. Hundreds of people froze to death on the highway. Thanks to the insulated car and supplies that I had prepared, food and life jackets, Zhou Xiaojie and I should have been able to safely return home. Who would have thought that at that moment his mistress Lin Yu appeared from nowhere and frantically knocked on the car door begging for a ride? I coldly refused. The supplies were only enough for 2 people plus 1 person, which meant we had to give up some of our supplies. In this apocalyptic situation, survival was the top priority. Zhou Xiaojie, wearing the fur coat I bought, angrily shouted, "How can you be so cruel? Yue has already begged, should I watch her die?" I also shouted back, "If she gets in the car, we will be the ones to die." Chu Hu Triet immediately opened the door on my side and pulled me out of the car. "If that's the case, then you get out and let Nuet get in." He threw me to the ground and even ripped off my fur coat to put on Lam Nuet. I was only wearing a thin shirt inside, standing there dumbfounded, watching them sitting in the car, eating, drinking, listening to music, watching movies, enjoying the warmth that I had worked so hard to prepare. As for me, I was freezing in the white snow thinking about this. My knuckles clenched so hard that they turned pale. I told you Qin Xin you don't even think about wrapping those stupid insulation materials. I quickly nodded. Okay, I won't do it anymore. I'll return the purchased goods and give the money to my parents. I obediently nodded in agreement. During dinner, the TV was on time to broadcast the weather report. The host was Zhou Xiaozhe's Bai Yue Guang. Lin Yue smiled brightly. Her voice was gentle. Here is the weather report for the Lunar New Year. This year's Lunar New Year is a rare warm winter. The temperature has risen as high as summer. In 100 years, people can wear short-sleeved shirts when going out. Where we are is the North Tet is normally the coldest of the year, but I've seen several climate experts warn that since last year humans are destroying nature too much. The weather is getting more and more extreme, and this year will be the first outbreak point. Chu Xiaojie looked intently at Lin Yue on the screen, smiling infatuatedly, as if he was hypnotized. But as soon as he turned to me, his attitude immediately changed to a disdainful expression. Si Yue also said that this year is a warm winter. Only a fool like her would buy a bunch of fur coats like that. After speaking, he immediately picked up the phone and called Lin Yue, asking her every question as if he was afraid she would be cold. On the other end of the line, Lin Yue gently said, Xiaojie, when you go back to your hometown this year, can you give me a ride? Train and bus tickets for Tet are hard to buy. I can't afford them. The person he missed wanted to ride in his car. Xu Xiaojie immediately agreed without hesitation. He threw me the car keys and said as if giving an order, Yue will go with us back to her hometown. Remember to wash the car, wash it inside and out 3 times until it's clean. Yue was obsessed with cleanliness. Oh, and remember to buy a bottle of car perfume, the smell of daisies and motion sickness. Medicine, she gets car sick easily. Prepare a few soft pillows and a thin blanket in the back seat. She was very afraid of the cold. I did not take the key, but instead slammed the dishes on the table heavily. What do you want to do? I told you to go wash the car, but you didn't listen. Where are you going? I replied, to return the goods. But in fact, I did not return any goods. I went straight to the car rental shop. The manager saw me and smiled brightly enthusiastically, introducing a series of luxury cars. Sister, do you want to see this car model? It's the hottest car this Tet holiday. Driving back to the hometown on the first day will definitely make the whole village jealous. I shook my head and looked, finally pointing to the car in the right corner. I want to rent this. The manager was surprised and opened his mouth. Sister, you must want to rent a truck to go back to the hometown for Tet. I nodded firmly. Yeah, trucks attract more attention. Holding the truck keys, I immediately drove to another garage and asked them to wrap insulation and install a circulating heating system for the entire body of the car. After that, I started to move all the prepared supplies onto the truck. Seeing that there was still quite a lot of space left, I decided to go buy more. After all, the memory of the biting cold in my previous life was still imprinted in my mind. Not to mention that there were too many people who were unprepared and got into danger. If possible, I wanted to lend them a hand on the way to shopping. Couples were bustling around hand in hand everywhere. When I passed a branded store, I suddenly saw 2 familiar figures, Chu Xiaojie and Lin Yue. When Chu Xiaojie saw me, he was as if he was afraid that I would be wasteful. What are you doing at the mall again? Have you returned the things you told me to return? Don't waste money on a bunch of random things. Again, I shook my head and paid them all. I just came to buy some New Year's items. His expression softened a bit. You are such a spendthrift. I warn you, don't spend my money carelessly again. Still not at ease, he took out his phone and immediately cancelled the joint spending account and blocked the bank card he had given me earlier. My mother just called to remind her to remember to buy more bird's nest and Korean ginseng. I laughed coldly. Inside, his mother always made excuses to force me to buy all kinds of expensive things, and also emphasized that I couldn't use his money. That whole family calculated every single penny. Lin Yue walked out of the fitting room wearing a custom-made high-end red dress, pretending not to see me, and turned around and wriggled in front of Zhou Xiaojie. Is Xiaojie pretty? Very pretty. It suits me. Zhou Xiaojie stared as if he was mesmerized. Lin Yue covered her mouth and giggled. Then I'll take this one. Huh, Xinyu, you're here too. Don't misunderstand, this dress was given to me by Xiao Zhe to congratulate me on becoming a radio announcer. We don't have anything. I just smiled politely, pretending not to care. Zhou Xiaozhe coughed lightly and raised his head to ask the employee, "How much is it?" The employee smiled sweetly. "Sir, this dress is 20,000 yuan after the discount." Zhou Xiaozhe didn't blink an eye and immediately scanned the code to pay for the salesperson. I laughed. I spent 4,000 yuan to buy a fur coat to save his life and scolded me like a stupid pig. Yet Lin Yue only tried on a dress that cost nearly 30,000 yuan, and he didn't say a word. Very good. Let's see if that dress can help her survive and get back to her hometown. Before leaving, I didn't get in Zhou Xiaojie's car but pointed to the truck parked next to it. "Let's drive ourselves. I'll rent a car and there's no need to squeeze in with 2 people. Zhou Xiaojie didn't care how much it cost me to rent a car. He thought about being in a car alone with Lin Yue. His face was as bright as a rose. I still don't forget to remind those who are going with me. Remember to prepare lots of noodles, instant food and mineral water. Also try to bring a few down jackets, it'll be cold." Zhou Xiaojie crossed his arms and sneered. "What an idiot! Are you guys going to believe the words of an idiot? The new year is coming, aren't you ashamed to hide in the car and eat instant noodles?" One person spoke up to protest. "What's so shameful about that? At the rest stop, cup noodles are only a few dozen yuan a box. I'm not stupid enough to throw money out the window." Zhu Xiaozhe curled his lips and looked at the poor with disdain. "Anyway, I don't eat those cheap things." "Yue, if you're hungry, let's go to the station and eat hot rice for a few hundred yuan a meal. It's very cheap." Lin Yue was amused by him and giggled, acting spoiled. Zhou Xiaojie continued to exaggerate. "Even if you guys are frugal, don't buy a warm winter coat, and no one wears a down jacket in the middle of summer. It's so sunny today. A t-shirt is enough." Do you guys know who she is? It's Lin Yue, the famous weather presenter. The warm winter news is because of... If she reads it and doesn't believe her, who else will she believe? Hearing that the group of people began to recognize Lam Nguyen and rushed over to chat. "Oh my God, she's really a TV host, so pretty. I believe you definitely don't need a down jacket this winter." Yes, you're a living meteorologist. If you say you don't need one, then you definitely don't need one. "Oh, can you sign for me, goddess?" Some people even turned to criticize me. "Hey, are you acquainted with the owner of the down jacket store? Are you here to cheat money? Someone even pushed me, trying to use their hands and feet. You bastards, Tet is coming, and you still want to rip us off." I didn't bother to explain. A down jacket isn't that expensive. Whether you buy it or not is your right. This is the last warning I can give them. Whether you listen or not is your choice. The convoy started to set off along the way. The sun was shining brightly. The temperature was also unusually high. It should be snowing right now. How could it be so hot that you were wearing a t-shirt? Everyone believed what Lin Yue said, only I knew that the extreme positive produces negative, and that the unusual weather was just a sign of disaster. In my previous life, I also thought I was worrying too much, and was scolded by Zhou Xiaojie the whole way until the sudden drop in temperature proved that what I said was completely correct. The dashcam on Zhou Xiaojie's car was still connected to my device, and I heard every word of the conversation between him and Lin Yue. He was full of contempt for me, yet he married a mentally challenged person like Qin Xinyu. "Why did you look at the whole way we drove so smoothly?" She insisted that there would be a traffic jam looking at the sunny weather like that. Who would believe there was a snowstorm always being led by the nose by those brainwashing channels on the internet? Yue is still smart, highly educated and knowledgeable, but a crazy person like her, I can crush her with just one finger. I drove calmly, recalling my previous life. In about an hour, the entire highway would be completely paralyzed. At this time, the surrounding air began to cool down rapidly. The sky was clear, and suddenly it started to snow lightly. The extreme snowstorm arrived as predicted. An hour later, the entire road was jammed and couldn't move. It was also dinner time. Chu Xiaojie was about to take Lin Yue to a rest stop to eat when the car stopped in place. Damn, why is there a traffic jam like this? Are the drivers in front all pigs? Don't you drive a little faster? It's almost New Year's Eve, and you're still as slow as a turtle. He slammed his fist on the steering wheel and cursed in anger. Lin Yue whined and whined. Xiaojie, I'm so hungry I want to eat. Chu Xiaojie gently and clearly said, Yue, bear with it, a little drink some water to ease your hunger. I think the road is almost clear. Once it's clear, I'll take you out to eat right away. But the whole afternoon passed and the car didn't move more than 5 meters. Chu Xiaojie and Lam Nguyen were so hungry that they were dizzy and their stomachs were empty. Meanwhile, the surrounding drivers who usually listened to my advice had prepared instant noodles, instant food and water. Only he who used to despise cheap things had to swallow even cold water. At first, because of his pride, he didn't dare to ask for anything, but when he reached his limit, he had to call me. Tam and Gu, my car and Nguyet's are right behind yours, about 2 kilometers away. Bring some food over here for us and bring a little more Nguyet. Nguyet is very hungry. Wanting to eat the food I prepared, you want me to bear my life and offer it to them dream on. I did not hesitate to flatly refuse. About half an hour later, the snow started to fall heavily. The temperature dropped sharply to minus 10 degrees Celsius. Chu Xiaojie was wearing a t-shirt and Lam Nguyen was only wearing a thin red dress. Both of them were shivering. The oil in their car had been secretly sucked out by me, not daring to turn on the heater for fear of dying in the middle of the road. In the end, he could not bear it anymore. Chu Xiaojie hugged his arms tightly, trembling, jumped out of the car, panting, ran more than 2 kilometers to my car, still carrying a large iron bucket in his hand. He shouted angrily, Tan Tam Gu, quickly bring out the food and life jackets and also pour the oil in your car for me. My car is out of oil. I can't turn on the heater. I didn't change my expression, locked the car door and sat in the car, happily looking at his face distorted by the cold and anger. He glared as if his pupils were about to explode. His mouth exhaled white breaths like smoke. Did you forget that I work as a car mechanic? Opening the lock of this broken truck is as easy as eating porridge for me. Wait until I open it. I will take this box and beat you to death. Chu Triet took out the toolkit on his waist and smiled smugly, attaching a universal key to my car lock. Seeing that, I immediately reached over to the passenger seat and took out a down jacket and 2 self-heating lunchboxes. Chu Triet grinned. You know what to do. Obediently bringing the things out to me under his expectant gaze, I calmly put on the down jacket, tore open the rice package, poured in the prepared water, and started to enjoy it. Sorry, this is for me to eat myself. If you're hungry, just run to the rest stop and eat at the restaurant. I saw one more than 100 kilometers away. Run fast, or you'll be hungry. Faced with my blatant sarcasm, Zhou Xiaojie's face turned purple and twisted, whether from cold or anger. You're dead for sure, Qin Xinyu. He angrily turned the key, but quickly discovered that his universal key couldn't open my car at all. I was so angry that he raised his foot and kicked the car door hard. Qin Xinyu, don't make me smash this car on the spot. I scooped a spoonful of hot rice into my mouth and ate while looking at him with a locked mind. His hand holding the fire extinguisher was shaking. Finally, I angrily raised my hand and slammed the bottle hard against my car door. It didn't dent or scratch, not even a scratch. Not believing my eyes, he flipped the bottle over and used the bottom of the bottle to smash it straight into the glass door. The car window was still intact, as if it had never been touched. I picked up the hot cup of coffee and took a full sip. The feeling of warmth spread throughout my body. In the scene of howling wind and snow outside, it was really too much of a waste of effort. I had already spent a lot of money to have the car reinforced. The car's body was waterproof and fireproof, as hard as steel. You could burn it with fire or smash it with a machine for several tons, but it wouldn't do anything. My car's glass was military bulletproof. From that day at the repair shop, I knew that insulation alone was not enough for someone like Zhou Xiaojie. He could do any evil. What if he wanted to kill me again, so I didn't hesitate to spend all my savings to have the mechanic reinforce it? The car was made of the best materials that could withstand both water and fire, and Zhou Xiaojie's evil heart. He was absent-minded and threw the fire extinguisher onto the snow, his face red with anger and cold, his teeth clenched and his eyes red. "Qin Xin Yu, are you that heartless? I'm your husband. Are you going to watch me freeze to death like this? It was ridiculous in my previous life when you dragged me out of the car for Lin Yu threw me to the ground and took off my fur coat to put on her. Do you remember that you're my husband? I kindly advised you to go home. It's even colder. Go back to the car, hug Yue tightly and warm up. Or you can also run a few laps to warm up and get your blood circulating. The car wouldn't move anyway. Everyone was trapped." Zhou Xiaojie gritted his teeth, almost breaking his body, trembling from the snowstorm. In the end, he resentfully turned around and ran back to his car. In the middle of the night, the highway was still completely blocked. Heavy snow had buried nearly 1/3 of the car's height. The temperature had also dropped sharply to 50 degrees. In the car, Zhou Xiaojie and Lin Yu were groaning in pain. The two hugged each other so tightly that they were stuck together, but they still couldn't keep any warmth. I chuckled and raised my phone to take a few photos from the dashcam. Zhou Xiaojie was so desperate that he thought of a stupid trick. He used a knife to cut his beloved leather seat in the car and wrapped it around Lin Yu to keep warm. The two of them were shivering as if their bones were grinding against each other. The people who had been loudly criticizing me for making money immorally and not buying fur coats this morning were now extremely panicked and madly honking their horns loudly. "What the hell is this weather? We're about to freeze to death here. I still have to go home for Tet. If I had known, I would have bought 2 more life jackets. Now I'm really about to die here, Chu-Hu." Triet suddenly had an idea. He opened the car window a little bit. The wind blew so hard that it almost tore his face off. But he didn't care and shouted with all his might, "Hey guys, that truck 2 kilometers away is my wife's. She's carrying all the supplies in the trunk, including food, a bunch of fur coats and a heater. If we don't want to freeze to death, then I think we should have more people and more power to rob her of all her stuff." Cornered, a group of people really gritted their teeth and followed him through the snow for 2 kilometers to my car. Everyone had angry faces, crowbar wrenches in hand, and loudly banged on my car door, shouting for me to hand over the stuff. "Girl, you have to have a conscience. If you indifferently let us die here, then you are the sinner. If you die, you will definitely go to hell." I didn't bother to reply. I held my tablet, ate a piece of bread, and watched a movie, enjoying it immensely. The group of people were so angry that they took turns using all kinds of tools to smash my car, but my car was not damaged at all. One person couldn't hold back and kicked Zhou Xiaojie hard. "Are you telling the truth? Did she really bring anything? If you tricked us all out here to suffer the cold with you, don't blame us for beating you to death on the spot." The agitated group shouted, "That's right, you said she was your wife, so why didn't you ride with her? Why is she wearing a fur coat and you're wearing a torn t-shirt? Is she planning to leave you out here to freeze to death?" Zhou Xiaojie lied without thinking. She's been fooling around outside, and now she just wants me to die to inherit and run off with a guy. The crowd, all men, heard that and got furious, thinking that I was the kind of cruel and heartless woman who wouldn't even help passers-by, leading to them losing their minds. They shouted, "Let Xiaojie go for this kind of worthless woman. Anyway, she won't let us take our stuff and we'll all freeze to death here, so why don't we just die together?" Right when the group was about to overturn my car, I pressed the control button, and the car's shell immediately became transparent like glass. All the supplies stored inside appeared before their eyes. All kinds of food were stacked up. There were even cakes and milk tea. Not only fur coats, there were also mini heaters, air conditioners, and everything. The crowd was speechless, and no one had the heart to destroy the car anymore. Mum, sister, I beg you, please give us some things. Our family can't take it anymore. We don't even have a fur coat. I slowly said, everyone has a share of these things. I warned you before, but you guys didn't believe me. Instead, you cursed and insulted me. Now that it's cold, I remember. Only then did the drivers remember that I was the one who enthusiastically reminded them that morning to prepare supplies to buy fur coats and bring food and drinks. Yet they believed Zhou Xiaojie and Lin Yue and treated me as a profiteer who intentionally lured them to spend money on useless things. If it weren't for Zhou Xiaojie's bad instigation, they would have prepared everything early on. The whole group of people still held wrenches and iron rods, their anger raging as if they wanted to burn the snow beneath their feet. You bastard, you're the one who said this morning that this year is a warm winter. Who buys fur coats for pajamas? Now my family is about to freeze to death. I only bought a few cups of instant noodles. My wife and kids are shivering in the car. It's all because of you. Go die, you beast! The crowd still surrounded Zhou Xiaojie and attacked him mercilessly, fearing that he would have been crippled before he could even die from the cold. After beating him until he was barely breathing, they threw him to the ground like a piece of trash and simultaneously turned to me and begged me. Sister, we were also incited by him before, so we misunderstood you. Meeting each other in this life is fate. Saving a life is better than building 7 towers. Please help us. I am not a petty person. Moreover, I prepared these things to help those who were stuck on the highway, but I still pretended to be troubled. Everyone. I am not a saint. I spent all my money and effort to collect these things. Hearing that there was still a chance, the whole group immediately raised their hands in a panic. We will pay however much you want, just give us a quote. I took a deep breath and calmly replied, I'm not a cutthroat merchant, but at least I can't let myself lose money. Normally, goods in the forest station are sold at 3 times the market price. I'll consider it as making friends with everyone and taking out double the market price. In fact, the money spent on converting this car almost wiped out all the money I had. Now I'll make a little bit back, after hearing that the whole group of people were as happy as if they had found gold. They showed each other the QR code to transfer money, and everyone gave me a thumbs up, praising me for playing fair. I opened a small window at the back of the car that was higher than their reach and threw out the supplies according to each request. At this time, Zhou Xiaojie struggled to crawl in the snow to the wheel of my car and whispered, Xin Yu, for the sake of our past relationship as husband and wife, can you sell me some? I looked down from above and gave him a faint smile. Okay, what do you need? Zhou Xiaojie was panting and his eyes were hazy. He needed hot water, self-heated rice, 2 blankets, 2 sets of down jackets. I immediately opened the calculator and calculated the self-heated rice. The original price is 31 yuan a box, the blanket is 2,100 a piece, the down jacket is 5,000 a set, the total is 70,300 yuan. For the sake of our relationship, I will round it up to 70,000 yuan. Zhou Xiaojie stared in horror as if he couldn't believe his ears. 70,000, 70,000, why is it 70,000? Are you charging me 5 times the price? Others only charge double. Why am I charging so much? I looked at him with an expression of not wanting to say anything, suddenly remembering that this morning he had despised these items as cheap and devaluing himself. Hey, didn't you just say this morning that these items were cheap and devalued? It's the new year and you're still this stingy. If you want to buy, then buy. If you don't want to buy, then get out of the way. If you go in, don't waste other people's time. A man standing behind impatiently stomped his cold shoes on Zhou Xiaojie's feet. In the end, whether you buy or not, don't waste our time. This brat acts like a boss in the morning, but now he's reluctant to even save his life. Zhou Xiaojie's teeth were chattering and he couldn't speak clearly anymore. Right now, he only had one goal left to save his life, and Lam Nguyen's I'll buy 70,000. I was trembling. He took out his phone and struggled to scan my transfer code, but when he pressed pay, a notification appeared that the balance was insufficient. Zhou Xiaojie frowned, his face pale, and switched to another card. Still not enough. He changed from one card to another, adding up to less than 10,000. He lowered his head in embarrassment and asked me, "Can I pay 3,000 in advance? I don't have enough money with me. When I get back to my hometown, I'll transfer the rest to you, okay?" I saw his lips were bitten until they bled, and knew in my heart that there was no way he would pay back. A person like Zhou Xiaojie would definitely flip his face when he got home. I asked him seriously who would believe him. His cards were all linked to e-wallets. "If you don't have money, then get lost and don't block my way." Another man couldn't stand it anymore and grabbed his collar, pulled him up and threw him to the side. "If you don't have money, then get lost. I still have to buy a life jacket." Zhou Xiaojie completely collapsed, standing in the middle of the white snow, and burst into tears. But the tears that just flowed out froze right at his eyelids and stuck to his skin, making him so painful that he didn't dare to cry. He had to use up all his last bit of strength to run back 2 kilometers to his car. In the car, Lin Yue was frozen to the point of paralysis, but she still glared at him. It was obvious that everyone had supplies, but he alone returned empty-handed. There was no sweetness left. She angrily questioned, "Where are the supplies? I'm about to freeze to death." "Zhu Xiaoji, everyone else has it, but you don't. You're useless, stop it." Zhu Xiaozhe clenched his fists in anger and suddenly grabbed Lin Yue's hair and slammed her head against the dashboard. "You still dare to talk? I only have 3,000 yuan left in my card. I don't have money to buy anything. If you didn't force me to buy you a dress and a bag at the mall yesterday, I wouldn't be in this situation." Lin Yue's head was hit until it was swollen and blood was flowing out, soaking Zhou Xiaojie. At this moment, he was no longer human. He didn't have any mercy like a few days ago. Lin Yue was beaten crazy. She raised her sharp nails and scratched wildly in the air, resisting madly. Lin Yue was mad. Her sharp nails were like knives scratching straight at Zhou Xiaojie's face until his face was completely crushed and bloody. "You're really a piece of trash. I only told you to buy a few dresses and bags, and you're still acting like you're about to die. If you don't have money, don't pretend to be rich." The two of them fought until they collapsed on the chair, only able to helplessly wait for death. At that moment, Zhou Xiaojie's phone rang. It was his parents calling. "Xiaojie, where are you and Yue? Did that bitch Qin Xinyu buy some bird's nest and Korean ginseng for mum?" Hearing his parents' voices on the phone, Zhou Xiaojie immediately felt extremely wronged. "Mum and Dad, I'm sure you won't make it. I'm stuck on the highway in a snowstorm with temperatures dropping to -50 degrees. I'm only wearing a t-shirt, and the car ran out of gas and can't turn on the air conditioner. Qin Xinyu filled the car with supplies but refused to give me a single thing. You and Yue are about to freeze to death here." What his parents yelled into the phone, cursing me from my ancestors to the next life. "Don't be afraid, Mum and Dad will immediately bring supplies to save you. You must try to survive." Zhu Xiaojie's family only had one old broken motorbike, which was still able to move in this traffic jam, but to go through the night in the cold weather of -50 degrees and travel hundreds of kilometers was just a dream. Zhu Xiaojie felt like he was being pumped with heat and moaned happily. "My parents are coming soon. Qin Xinyu, wait until I get back to settle the score with you. Do you want me to die? I'm not going to die anytime soon." I heard this through the dash cam and almost died laughing in the car. He must have been so cold that his brain froze. It must have been at least 200 kilometers from his house to here. His parents riding that motorbike from the wartime would have been knocked over by the wind before they even left the village. I continued to distribute the goods to the drivers when suddenly a familiar big man came in front of me. Without saying anything, he scanned the code and transferred 20,000 yuan. I glanced at the car behind him. There was no one else. The driver was alone, so he didn't need that much stuff. I would refund a portion to the rest of the people. The man shook his head, his expression somewhat sad. Actually, I intended to get an extra portion for my wife. She was angry that I didn't want to ride together back to her hometown, so she called a ride-hailing service to go first. She was sure that this was her license plate number somewhere around here. He brought the photo of the license plate closer, and I immediately recognized that this was Chu Xiaojie's car. I paused and looked up at the man for a long time. Finally, my brain reacted that this was Lam Nguet's legal husband, Luc Cardung. Luc Cardung still didn't know anything and asked, "Are you familiar with this driver? Have you seen his car nearby?" "I'm going to send supplies to my wife." I felt a little sympathetic as I watched him hand over my phone to him. As soon as he saw the photo I took earlier, Chu Xiaojie and Lam Nguet hugged each other tightly like lovers in the car. His expression immediately changed. "Who the hell is that bastard in the picture?" Lam Nguet, this bitch, asked why she kept asking for a divorce. It turns out she's been cheating on me for a long time. I calmly replied, "That's my husband. Their car is exactly 2 kilometers away." Luc Cardung's chest shook with anger, but he still kept his composure and put on another down jacket and threw the other one to me. He didn't ask for his money back and turned around and ran like crazy to the back of the car. I leisurely finished delivering the remaining goods, then turned on the app to watch the dashcam, nibbling on melon seeds while listening to the news. Still confident that my parents would come to save me, Chu Hiu Triet once again coaxed Lam Nguet. The two of them hugged each other tightly, as if nothing had happened, quietly waiting for help. Unexpectedly, a man about 2 meters tall suddenly appeared outside the car window, causing both of them to jump in shock. Lam Nguet, who was already mentally disturbed, rushed in, as if she had found a life-saving straw when she saw Luc Cardung wearing a thick fur coat. Chu Xiaojie looked at him with a murderous expression, thinking that the driver from this morning had come back to take revenge. He immediately flustered and begged, "Brother, I was wrong. This morning I was the one who said all the nonsense. You wore a fur coat. Please forgive me this time." Lu Keyong didn't say anything. He pulled Lin Yue away with one hand and tore the red dress she was wearing that cost nearly 30,000 with both hands. "Another man bought this dress for you, right? You want a divorce because of him, right? I just spent a lot of money to buy a fur coat to keep you warm, and you're hugging this guy in the car in the middle of a snowstorm." Lin Yu just heard that her husband had gone to buy a fur coat for her, and tears of emotion fell down her face. "Brother, where's the fur coat? I don't need a fur coat. Don't misunderstand. We're just hugging because it's too cold. I don't want to die." But Lu Keyong didn't believe her at all. Chu Hiu Triet heard that this was Lam Nguet's husband. His face was pale and he wanted to run away, but with his current state there was no chance of escape. Before he could lift his foot, Luc Cardung grabbed his head and pulled him back. Luc Cardung's fist was twice as big as Chu Hiu Triet's face. With just one punch, his face was flattened like a bruised persimmon and blood flowed out of his nose. "Brother, listen to me, explain." "What the hell are you explaining?" Luc Cardung went crazy and pressed his head down on the snowy ground, continuously throwing a series of punches like falling rain. After he beat him, he still deliberately left Chu Hiu Triet, a breath leaving Lam Nguet naked and trembling like a stone statue in the car. He turned around and walked away. "Husband, don't leave me behind. I want to go back to the countryside with you." But her cold bare feet and hoarse voice couldn't hold back Luc Cardung's determined steps. Lam Nguet tried her best to drag Chu Hiu Triet back to the car, but her physical strength did not allow it. In the end, because she wanted to live, she had no choice but to leave him alone and crawl back to hide in the car until noon the next day. The snowstorm gradually stopped, the sun began to rise and the temperature increased a little. Chu Hiu Triet's parents overcame many difficulties and carried a bunch of supplies. They finally found the road where their son was stuck. "Where is Hugh?" "Triet mom is here, son. Did that bitch Tan Tam. Ungu, buy bird's nest for mum." A kind driver on the road pointed to a corpse covered in thick snow that no one dared to approach. When the couple saw it, they went crazy and cursed. "Your mother who said this was my son. How could my son die?" He still had to go home for the new year. But no matter how hard they searched, they could not find Chu Hu Triet. The corpse lying in the middle of the white snow was covered in a thick layer of snow that was gradually melting. The face began to clearly reveal that it was indeed Chu Hu Triet. The two old people knelt down and cried like crazy, and Lam Nguyet couldn't make it until the next morning. Hugh Triet was cold in the car. A total of 2 people died in this snowstorm. After the snow melted, the rescue team began to deploy urgently when they learned that I was the one who delivered supplies to help hundreds of survivors. They expressed their thanks and proposed rewards. Not long after the highway gradually cleared, I returned home to celebrate Tet and silently thanked God for letting me live again. Thank you for listening to the story at Ken Stories. I hope you have relaxing and fun moments. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe so I have more motivation to make more videos.